Hi, it's Shelley with Strategic Sales Advisors, and welcome back to my channel, Building Sustainable Sales. This year, I'm launching a whole series of content here on YouTube and LinkedIn focused on helping business owners enhance their sales processes, their strategies, their teams, and their systems to drive sustainable growth in their business. Today, I want to talk about a topic that I feel like is transformative for many businesses, and that's fractional sales leadership. I want to talk about what it is, how it works, and the real impact it can make for your business. So first of all, let's start out with what exactly is fractional sales leadership? Well, in simple terms, it's when an experienced sales leader joins your team on a part-time, flexible basis. Instead of hiring a full-time VP of sales, you engage with someone who has a high level of expertise to guide your sales strategy and processes without that long-term commitment. It's basically like renting top-tier sales expertise to help your business grow. It's cost-effective and it focuses on strategy. Fractional sales leaders focus on creating sustainable systems and strategies tailored to your needs so your sales efforts drive real results. And I think the important thing there is it's tailoring to your needs. This is not off-the-shelf work. This is something that is built just for you. So, why would a business owner consider having fractional sales leadership? Well, first thing is it's actually very cost effective. I've mentioned that already. When you're hiring a full-time sales leader, that comes with a pretty hefty price tag, right? You've got probably a large salary, you've got a lot of benefits that are expected with that role. Potentially there's bonuses or possibly there's equity within the company or organization that you have to take into consideration. You have to take that whole package into consideration when you're hiring someone. A fractional leader is providing that similar expertise, but a fraction of the cost. It's just the cost of the engagement that you're working with. You're not paying for benefits and everything else as it relates to that role. It's also a flexible engagement, as I mentioned. You can bring that fractional sales leader in for a specific project, like maybe entering a new market, or for ongoing support without that full-time commitment. We typically work across all of that. Project work, which could be 30, 60, 90 days worth of work to do with you, or it could be that you need someone to come in and lead your sales team fractionally for 4, 6, 8, 12 months until you're ready to hire in potentially a VP of sales or a sales leader within your organization. The third thing in why people would look at, or a business owner would look at hiring a fractional sales leader is the quick impact that we typically make. Now, I'm not saying it's overnight. I wish we could. But we're not there to just observe. We do have to have a little bit of time to understand what's going on within the organization. But our focus is really how do we implement solutions quickly within an organization to drive those measurable results. And I will say that I find that fractional sales leadership can be very helpful for businesses that do have a heavy reliance on customer service, because there needs to be that balance between the relationships and revenue, and sometimes that can be a challenge. So if you're in a service or customer service-based business, that's where I see that fractional leadership can come in handy very quickly. Another question I hear a lot is, when do businesses typically turn to fractional sales leadership? And there's some common scenarios that I see quite frequently when I'm working with clients or when associates that I know that are also doing fractional sales work, when they run into clients. So the first one that I see the most common is when business has plateaued, right? You grow, you hit the $5 million mark in top line revenue, and you just can't get beyond it. And we hear this quite frequently. Oftentimes it's just new strategy that's needed, and a fractional salesperson coming in and being able to give you that outside perspective, especially if they have experience within your market or your industry, that's something that would be critical for success there. So that sales plateau oftentimes is where we see a lot of companies come to fractional sales leaders for support and expertise. The second area that I see happen quite frequently is when someone is launching a new product or they're entering a new market, right? You're launching a new product or service, you're entering a new market, you need someone to help you craft a strategy around that go-to market or that product launch. But you also need someone to help you balance with what's going on with your current markets and products so that you don't lose sight of both sides of that. And a fractional sales leader can come in and help you with that. The third area that I see is most common for when we're brought in is when the sales team lacks structure or needs training. And I will say No disrespect to business owners out there. I see this quite frequently when the business owner is also the sales leader. Oftentimes it's because the business owner probably started as the primary salesperson within their company or organization, and as they transitioned into having a sales team, the processes and how to capture business and the types of clients were kind of in their head, were never properly documented or shared with the sales team. Fully too, as you are trying to drive business within your organization as well as lead your organizations, oftentimes if the company leader is also the sales leader, you don't have the time or resources to do the training that needs to happen on the sales side of things. So these are the two most common areas where I see fractional leadership coming in and making a pretty almost immediate impact for a company. Another area is during transition. So again, maybe you are looking as the business owner to transition out of being the sales leader and bring in someone who can do the sales leading for you. Oftentimes, before bringing in a VP of sales or a sales leader, we will see company owners bring in a fractional sales leader, sort of break the bond there. Not only for the business owner who can sometimes want to still be involved a bit and needs to have someone come in and have that conversation with them that they need to step out completely so that they can focus on running the business and the strategy of growth for the business itself, and leave the sales organization to someone else before they bring in a VP of sales. You get a lot of friction when you have a business owner that's been the sales leader and you bring in a new VP of sales that's internal, and now it's a battle for who's in charge of sales. And so oftentimes fractional sales leadership can be that bond breaker in there. Another area from a transition standpoint is, let's say that you buy another company and they have a sales organization and you have your existing sales organization, and you need someone to come in and kind of stitch those two organizations together by looking at redundancy, by looking at team member effectiveness, by looking at different and differing processes, that type of thing. That's not usually something that one individual sales leader can do when they're still also trying to manage the day-to-day operations of the business. So having a fractional sales leader come in and help with that process is something that's important. And finally, when you see someone who is scaling their business and needs that interim support. So you're not ready to hire a VP of sales or a sales leader, that high value, that high expense role, but you need someone to help you as you're scaling. Maybe you're looking to hire additional sales team members and you're looking at that growth. You're not ready for the leadership to come in yet, but you need someone to help you in the interim from a fractional basis. Those are some of the areas I think that we see fractional sales leadership, especially, being critical to the success of an organization. We come in, our goal is to actually solve specific problems quickly and efficiently. And it's really about not overcommitting resources in this space. That's what we're good at. So another question I get is, how is fractional leadership different than full-time sales leadership? And honestly, the biggest difference is the level of involvement. A full-time sales leader is embedded in the daily operations, the management of the teams, and the processes, the day-to-day operations of sales. And that's critical and absolutely needed. A fractional sales leader, on the other hand, is typically focused a little bit more on high-level strategy and measurable outcomes, often working a day or two a week within a company, depending upon the company's size and complexity. Now, that doesn't mean that a fractional sales leader won't come in and do things like team meetings, sales meetings, and one-on-ones with the sales teams, and performance evaluations, and all of the other things that are needed on that day-to-day operations. But it just means that we're focusing not only on that, but we're focusing much more on that strategy level of where maybe a VP of sales or another sales leader that's embedded within a company organization isn't taking the time to do because of what they're tasked to do. Now, when we look at all of this, and you say, gosh, a day or two a week is not enough to run my sales organization, I want to pause there. In large organizations, it's probably not. But in small to mid-sized organizations, what we find most often is that the company owner, the CEO, is also the sales leader. And what I want you to do is I want you to sit back a moment and I want you to think in your role. If you are in that role, right? If you are the company owner or the business owner and also the CEO, and you are also the sales leader, how much time truly are you dedicating 100% to sales and sales strategy and sales efforts and the sales team, right? We find most often that a full 8 hours or 16 hours, if we're focused on a day or two within a company or organization, because we are there focused solely on sales and the sales organization, that we get more accomplished during that one day or that 2 days than you would typically get accomplished in a week. Now, it's different if you have an identified sales leader in the role, right? Their job is to do that. And that's what they're focused on and their capabilities are focused on. But if you're looking for fractional to come in, a full 8 hours concentrated just on sales is usually far more than someone who is tasked with not only managing the sales team, but managing other aspects of the company organization. So think about it from that perspective. It's a perfect fit for businesses that need expertise, but they don't require someone day to day. Like if you're not ready to have a sales leader day to day, it's just not financially feasible, especially. Fractional sales is a great opportunity to bring in and get the capabilities that you need, but just at that fraction of a cost. We also bring in an outside perspective, which can be really invaluable in identifying and addressing any challenges that you're dealing with, not only internally, but externally when you're focused on your clients and customers. Especially if we have any kind of background in your market or your industry, we can bring a lot of that information to you. That's kind of that outside perspective where we can see things probably a little bit differently than you can. Now, another question I get is, what do we actually do? Like, what are we concentrating on? And when I come into a company or organization from a fractional basis, the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to assess your current setup. I'm going to be looking at the processes you have in place and documented. I'm going to be looking at the team. I'm going to be looking at goals and quotas. I'm going to be looking at strategy. All of those things, I need to understand the whole package of what's going on within the revenue generation portion of your company so that I can understand what needs to be either adjusted or fixed, what needs to be put into place, who should or should not be in their roles, all of those areas. So again, once I've made my assessments, I'll sit down and have a conversation with the business owner about the areas of performance I feel like need to be worked on. Then I'm going to do things like I'm going to build or refine the sales strategy. I'm going to look at who are we focused on from a customer profile perspective? Who are the buyer personas we're out there? How are we expressing what our solutions are? And is that message resonating with our clients, both within sales, but possibly within marketing as well? The second thing that I'm going to probably look at is I'm going to start to build and implement sales processes and streamline efforts. We're going to be putting playbooks into place. We're going to be making sure that we have effective messaging, that we know and have identified the sales channels that we need to be going after and that we're operating efficiently in there. That the systems that we have in place are working for the company organization. Things like CRM systems, all of that type of stuff. And if you don't have a CRM system, I'm going to implement a CRM system for you so that we have a way to manage our customer database efficiently and effectively. The next area that I'm going to focus on is I'm going to be focusing heavily on the team. So I'm going to be looking at, after the assessment, are there hard decisions that need to be made? Are there people in positions that shouldn't be? Do we have the right people in the right seats? And then I'm going to be looking at what training do we need to give these right people so that they can be the most effective in their roles? How do I need to coach the team, whether it's through individual coaching or it's team coaching, to get that better performance out of them? And then finally, as I've mentioned before, I'm going to be looking at how are we aligning our sales goals with broader business objectives. One of the worst things that I see in companies out there is not identifying and creating goals, whether that's a team goal or that's individual sales goals for our sales teams to go after. Sales team members should be hungry to perform, to drive for success. And so if we give them targets to shoot for, then they know what to go after. They know how to go after it. We will become successful. Now, I know there's some fractional sales leaders out there that don't believe in sales goals. I'm not one of them. I feel like we should have sales goals or quotas in place because it also gives us a way to track their performance and to judge them on what they're doing. So I'm going to be looking at all of that. I'm not going to be there just to fix short-term issues, so that's some of the things that we'll probably tackle first. But my goal coming in from our fractional sales leadership role is to set you up for long-term success. So finally, let's talk about how we create measurable impact. Well, let me give you some great examples of things that I'm going to focus on coming into your organization. I'm going to focus on your sales cycle, first of all, and I'd be looking for efficiencies that we can create because I want to be able to reduce the length of the sales cycle. If I can reduce the length of time that it takes from identifying a potential customer or prospect to us acquiring that business, if I can shrink down that time by creating efficiencies, whether that's messaging, ideal client targeting, all of the other ways that we can do that, that shrinking of the time is actually going to create not only more top line revenue coming in because we'll close more business, but because we're creating efficiencies, now we're creating more profit as well. So I'm going to be looking at that. I'm going to be looking at how can we increase lead conversion rates? How can we capture more of the business that we're going out thereafter? A lot of that comes to ideal targeting, ideal messaging, the right people in the right seats, that type of thing. How are we telling people the solutions that we provide to either the challenges or aspirations in their companies and organizations out there? I'm going to be looking at enhancing team performance through that training and accountability, right? We need to create not only the training aspect, give people the tools and resources they need to do their job, but then we want to create and craft accountability through goals and different activities so that the team understands what they are accountable for and what they should be going after. And if they're not going after that, if they're not performing up to expectations, then creating counseling around that. And finally, I'm going to be doing things like I want to be driving higher revenue by aligning those strategies with the business goals. I'll give you a great example. I worked with a company that the board of directors or the CEO had crafted what the business goals, what the revenue goal was for the year, and passed that on to the sales leader that was in place at the time. And that sales leader did not feel like that number was right or correct, and so created their own. And now we're out of alignment. We're not on the same message, and we're not focused on the same resources or goals to go after and get what we need to get in order for the business to grow. So I'm going to come in and I'm going to focus on how do we build things together, right? How do we build not only from a sales perspective, but from an operational perspective, that alignment so that we are all moving in the right direction from a revenue growth standpoint, and the company can grow itself. So again, it's not about having just someone sit in a leadership position. It's about seeing real, tangible results that can move your business forward. Now, let's wrap this up. Fractional Sales Leadership offers small to mid-sized businesses, especially, a unique way to access top-tier sales expertise in a really flexible, cost-effective manner. It's about creating sales strategies and systems that deliver measurable growth, especially for businesses where customer service is a priority. If you found this content helpful, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more insights. And let me know in the comments section, what's your biggest challenge with sales leadership? I'd love to hear from you. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time on Building Sustainable Sales. Bye for now.